I chose my great-granddad Charles Duncan Brown for my interview. He was born October 18th, 1928 in Ashford, England. The historical event I discussed with him was World War II. Where did you live during the war?
In a village called Kingsnorth, close to Ashford, in a cottage. And we went out there, supposed to be evacuated out there from Ashford, which is about 5 miles away, or 6 miles. And we found ourselves right in the middle of the war, because just down the road there was an American army camp, and within 3 miles in a circle, there were about 4 aerodromes, all run by Americans. So we didn't get out of it, really. It was a bit of a silly thing to do. We stayed in Ashford and been quite safe.
How old were you during the war?
14 then.
What did you do during the war?
What we used to do as kids, before I was 14, we used to chase around where the aircraft had crashed and get some perspex off the cockpits and use it to make rings and all sorts of things. You can make models out of it. Because to use it, you could use a saw on it, like a fret saw, and cut it and file it down and polish it. That was only one thing, and we used to collect rose hips. That was what they used to feed. They used to make rose hips, syrup out of that, for the babies. And we used to collect acorns off the trees, and they used to use them for pig food. And I was in the Boy Scouts in those days, and that's what we used to do.
How did it affect your day-to-day life?
We just took it for granted, and we just lived as best we could. Within several miles of some of my mates, there was a big army camp, and we used to go up there and get a ride on a brain gun carrier or collect shells and all sorts of things. It was quite an experience, actually.
Did this affect any traditions like a holiday?
Holiday? Joking. That was the only holiday we had. You weren't allowed to the seaside anywhere in England. And of course, in those days, there were no cheap flights out. It was all on the war. So we didn't have holidays. All right, you were broke up from school, certain school holidays, but there wasn't nothing to do, really, other than fishing or going out doing scrumping, doing all sorts of things like that.
What's scrumping?
Scrumping is stealing someone's apples from an orchard.
Did anything happen to your home during the war?
Well, my father had a shop in Ashford, and it never stopped. He kept it open. So nothing happened to it. We just moved into a cottage in the country, and that was supposed to be safe. But it didn't get hit, fortunately.
Was there any fighting close to you?
Yeah, with aircraft only. The Germans used to come over in squadrons and drop their bombs on their way to London, supposedly. And when our fighters went up, like the Spitfires after them, they dropped them anywhere. In March the 14th, 1943, I was in a shop working, and a bomb fell on it in New Rents in Ashford. I dashed into the shop and got under the stairs with the rest of the staff, and we survived. We didn't get injured, luckily. The next day after that, through shock, I think, I had yellow jaundice.
What impacted you most during the war?
The flying bomb, the doodlebug.
What's a doodlebug?
A doodlebug is a weapon made by the Germans, and it was a rocket with a bomb underneath. The rocket was above the bomb, and it had 2 wings, and they used to set them off for Germany or Holland or wherever they were, Belgium, and fly them into England, and when they run out of fuel, they used to hit the ground and explode.
Where did you go during attacks?
We just stayed at home.
Hoping that a bomb didn't fall on you.
Well, you took the risk. You accepted what was happening, and you were restricted on where you went. Because you got to remember, in those days, no one had motor cars. There was no petrol. You couldn't buy petrol, and it was all rationed anyway. If anyone had a car, the petrol was rationed. Like food was rationed, clothes were rationed. To buy a pair of shoes or a coat, you had to give up so many coupons.
How long did rationing go on for?
Since 1939 till 49.
Was there any warning systems when they had attacks?
The only warning system you got was issued by the Observer Corps, and they were on the lookout somewhere quite high up on top of a church or something like that, and if there was immediate danger, they'd press a button, and if 12 rang on the bell, which was in all the shops, it got 6 rings, and it was immediate danger. So then the thing was to get out of danger if you could. But no one had air raid shelters, not in shops, anywhere like that. If a bomb hit the place, it would blow it to pieces. On that particular day, there was a lot of bombs dropped on Ashford. There was people killed, several garages hit, a slaughterhouse, the railway works. Because Ashford town was a big railway town where they used to make steam engines and repair them.
Did you ever go to air raid shelter?
When I was at school, we used to spend more days in the air raid shelter than in the classroom. And you could watch through the ventilators in the brickwork on these shelters across the field where we used to play, like the playing fields attached to the school. There were guns, like rocket-propelled guns, and they were shooting up at the planes all the time. And then every house that had a garden, they were issued with what they call an Anderson shelter, and that was buried in the ground in the garden, and it was covered with soil. And I expect over the years that must have saved a lot of lives. But they also had a shelter, and you got inside the table on the floor in the dining room or where it was, and that would protect you from the debris falling around you if the bomb hit. It was made strong enough to withstand quite a bit of weight, I can assure you. And some of them Anderson shelters are still about. I bet if you looked in some of the old gardens where they don't garden much, and they had one during the war, it's still there now. It's like heavy corrugated iron.
How was school during the war?
We used to go, before I left in 1942, between 1939 and 42 school, we didn't have much schooling because the war was on. And if you went to school, you were mostly in an air raid shelter, and they didn't keep the lessons going in there.
Did life ever improve right after the war finished, or did it take a while?
Yeah, it did. You still had all the coupons and the rationing on then. It didn't really improve until about 1950 onwards. But what the youngsters don't realise today is that in those days there was hardly any motors about. Nobody could afford one.
I really enjoyed this project for 2 main reasons. One is I found it interesting to learn about the war from someone directly and not just from a history book. Most importantly, it was great learning stories about my great-granddad. There are some things I may not have learned had I not done this project.